was like, you didn't move anything, did you? No. So she goes in, I remember she opened the thing, she moved one thing, she's like, here's the bread, see, here's the bread. And she mushed the bread up and opened the door. It was in the middle of the winter, and she launched the bread outside. And I'm like, what'd you do that for? I wanted my eggs on bread. She's like, well, go get it then. And there was probably like a foot of snow, and it was the kind of snow where it had gotten colder, so it was crunchy on top. And I'm like, okay. And I go walking over, and I look, and I just started busting out laughing. I'm like, you got to get over here. I'm like, I look out the window, and here's a squirrel. He's got the end of the bag.
Come up with a concept and kind of illustrate the concept. It seemed kind of barren to me. I went back to my studio on Union Square and did a painting of Nebraska. And it was, I looked around the studio, and it was like the best thing in there. Completely no calculation to it, but it was very minimalist. It was very not traditional. I never liked the conventions of landscape painting, so it was almost more like a color field painting. And a friend of mine whose opinion I really appreciate, he came by the studio and he immediately...
really big into changing things and shifting things. I think that anytime I look at anything, I like to look a little deeper than what it was made for, and just to see, what's the potential of each item. What I'm really kind of pleased to see is people being a lot more conscientious in general of themselves as people who are interacting with the materials that are in the world, and what you use and how you use it. For example, just the movement of people bringing their own bags to go grocery shopping. And so for me, I think that the idea of helping people understand how to turn something that they already have into something that's new and that they're excited about is a service that more and more people are going to want.
But one of the cool things that came of that was that 2 people that were injured during the bombing actually ended up becoming engaged after this. It was, I guess it was about 1.5 years after the bombing, we rolled in and secretly set up at Fenway Park. We set up we had everything set up as the wedding band, and the bride and groom had no idea that we were there. We hid in the back room during the entire wedding ceremony. So as the bride and groom, they had done their vows and they were walking out of the boardroom, and then we're going to come back around and do the receiving line. As they made it around the venue and came walking back in, Dropkicks came out and ended up playing
definitely. I got another random call from some girl who had seen me at this bar in Kingston like 10 years ago and wanted to hire me for a show she was doing with Noriega at BSP in Kingston, which pulled me into the opportunity after those shows to go to Ibiza. It's like magic. The energy is amazing, and the production, the level of professionalism, everything from the dancers to the scenery, it's just this like immersive experience. It was really like transformational, life-changing, amazing. We were just at Ultra in Miami, and I was there with a few guys that I had met in Ibiza, one of which, DJ Ideal, was playing. And
while we were just finishing up building one season, and being that it was a county park, they would have prisoners come and help clean up the park once in a while. So one year they had female prisoners cleaning up the woods, cleaning up garbage, whatever like that, and they thought it was a good idea. Hey, your haunted house is kind of finished? Like, yeah. And the owner said, yeah. So he sent a couple of his female convicts in to the haunted house.
Like a week or 10 days, and we made stops along the way. We stopped in Yugoslavia, Greece, Tunisia, Sardinia. And the last stop we made was Portofino in Italy. Yeah, I've been on a boat for like the whole week. It was kind of, and I wanted to see, once you're on the boat for a while, the fun is really getting places and seeing different places. So when we got to Portofino, the seas were kind of rough, so we couldn't go into the port because this is a big cruise ship. So we had to stay maybe a mile offshore. But the seas were really rough. So they were saying, like, anybody who wants to go ashore, you know, we have a little boat that can take you there and pick you back up. Nobody really wanted to go, except for moi. And one of the cooks, this Italian guy, he was working on the bar. He's like, you know, I think he knew people. He knew the place. He's like, okay, I'll show you around. So the two of us went, and we ended up in this bar, drinking. Pretty. I think we went overboard a little bit. I drank too much, and we lost track of time. So at some point, we're like, it's now, I don't know, midnight. We got to get back to the boat. You know, this boat is leaving, and you know, it was probably, I don't know, maybe it was too late, so we kind of rushed. When we got to the port, we were too late. The shuttle had already left, and we were like, well, he was freaking out. We were both freaking out because we were like, you know, we need to be on this boat. Like, I have to work. He had to work. We had responsibilities. So there was somebody there. There was some fishing boats or whatever, and one of them was like, you know, I can probably bring you there. Let me radio the ship and tell them that I have 2 passengers. And the ship, they were like, well, okay, if you can bring him, you know, we'll wait for you. Because they would sail at night. They were ready to take off, right? So we went on this little fishing boat out a mile offshore to this is, I don't know, have you seen those boats, these boats, you know, these cruise ships? This was one of the biggest ones at the time. It was a new boat. They're huge. They're like 10-story buildings. So we got there in this little dinky boat, and I look up, and there's nothing. I'm like, how do we get, you know, we need to get on board. So these guys on the cruise ship, they threw out a rope ladder from like way up. Mm-hmm. And like,
I've seen it in the movies, yeah.
So, and I knew it was one rope ladder, but I actually saw 2, which was kind of a problem because I was like, I had some major double vision. So I had to, drunk as a skunk, I had to climb up this rope ladder in wild seas. I mean, our boat was going like this. I mean, this big boat was probably pretty stable, but everything was moving, and I was like, I did make it up, obviously, I'm here. But if I think back, that's probably the time that I could have easily just grabbed the wrong rope ladder and disappeared into the waves and never to be seen again. That was a close call. Yeah.